We live in a strange paradox. We've built machines that can decode the human genome, yet we struggle to understand the human heart. We've mapped the stars, landed probes on comets, and transmitted images from galaxies millions of light years away, yet closer to home, many of us feel lost, disconnected from each other, from the planet, and even from ourselves. How is it that in an age where humanity's collective knowledge fits in the palm of your hand, so many still feel adrift? It's like we're passengers on a spaceship Earth-hurtling through the cosmos at 67 miles per hour, orbiting a star that will burn for billions of years more, surrounded by the stunning complexity of life and matter. Yet we keep our eyes closed. We're asleep at the wheel, dreaming while the storm brews. What is this storm? It's not weather, not in the meteorological sense. It's not a hurricane or a solar flare. No, this storm is both internal and global. It's the rising pressure of spiritual amnesia, ecological neglect, moral complacency, and psychological fragmentation. It is a storm of consciousness. We are the only species we know of that can reflect on the past, imagine the future, and question its own place in the universe. Yet, with all this capacity for awareness, why do so many choose the comfort of denial over the discomfort of awakening? Why do we slumber through the very moment when we're needed most? Maybe it's because awakening isn't convenient. It doesn't come through Wi-Fi or get scheduled into our calendars. It requires facing uncomfortable truths, that our civilization is built on unsustainable systems, that our definitions of success have often come at the expense of our mental health, and that many of us have forgotten we are part of a planetary ecosystem, not separate from it. We've split the atom, we've split the genome, but the most dangerous divide we've created is the one that separates the self from the collective, the soul from science, the mind from earth. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking the most important questions. Not just how does it work, but why does it matter? Not just what can we build, but who do we become when we build it? These are the questions of philosophers, poets, and spiritual seekers. And now, they must also become the questions of scientists, educators, and citizens. Because the storm that's coming isn't about data, it's about meaning. It's about whether we wake up before the systems we rely on collapse under their own neglect. Every civilization in history thought it was invincible until it wasn't. The Mayans, the Romans, the Mesopotamians all believed the sun would never set on their empire. But civilizations are ecosystems. When the balance is disturbed by greed, inequality, environmental degradation, or moral decay, the storm becomes inevitable. And storms, though slow to arrive, never miss their appointment with history. And now, here we are, 21st century humans, with quantum processors in our pockets, microplastics in our oceans, and loneliness in our hearts. And here's the twist. The storm isn't the end, it's the test. The purpose of a storm isn't to destroy in nature. Storms clear away the dead wood, they redistribute energy, they water the soil, they catalyze renewal. So maybe the question isn't, how do we avoid the storm? The real question is, who will we become because of it? Will we continue to cling to outdated ways of thinking? Will we keep looking for enemies instead of solutions? Will we anesthetize ourselves with distractions while the house burns down? Or will we wake up? Because here's what the cosmos has taught us through eons, through star systems, through every equation we've ever solved, consciousness evolves under pressure. Just as stars are born from the collapse of gas and gravity, just as diamonds form under intense heat and force, so too does a new humanity emerge when we dare to confront the pressure of our times not as victims, but as visionaries. This is the moment lightworkers, truth seekers, scientists, and storytellers were made for. Not to run from the storm, but to stand at its center, calm and clear, and speak the truth. And that truth begins with this. You are not here by accident. You are not here by accident. Out of the billions of genetic possibilities, infinite cosmic conditions, and untold probabilities stretching back to the birth of the universe, there you are, awake, breathing, listening, thinking. That alone should stir awe in you. Not fear, but awe is a strange thing in our age. We reserve it for planetary discoveries, black holes, and Mars rovers, while forgetting the miracle of a human being rising each day, trying again. That is awe. That is cosmic. So why do so many sleepwalk through life? Why do so many numb themselves with routine, distraction, and cynicism, while the Earth sends signal flares through floods, fires, rising tides, and silent extinctions? Because waking up hurts. It hurts to see clearly. It hurts to acknowledge that the systems we trust are often engineered for profit, not people, that our education conditions us more for compliance than curiosity. That many of our leaders manage perception, not truth. But pain is not the enemy of awakening. Denial is. And the greatest act of rebellion in our time may be to feel fully, to feel fearlessly, and to use those feelings as fuel for transformation. So, what does it mean to awaken in the storm? It means recognizing that consciousness is not just a byproduct of biology, it is the navigator of civilization. Every invention, every revolution, every great leap humanity has ever made was preceded by a shift in consciousness. A moment where someone said, this doesn't have to be this way, let's change it. The storm, then, is the invitation. And like all cosmic invitations, it does not come politely. It comes through breakdowns of trust, of systems, of narratives we once clung to, and in their collapse, we are left with raw material. Chaos, yes, but also potential. Think of it this way. Our solar system was born from the violent death of another star. A supernova, collapse, debris scattered across light years. And yet, from that violence came the elements that make up your bones, your blood, your brain. You are quite literally stardust reassembled with intention. Now, ask yourself, what new form will this storm give rise to? What new human story waits to be born from this global unraveling? Because, make no mistake, the old story is dying. The story that says we must dominate nature rather than cooperate with it. The story that says competition is our only motivator, that more is always better, and that the worth of a life can be calculated in dollars. That story has hit its limit, and the cracks are everywhere. You see them in our mental health epidemics, in climate refugees, in wealth gaps so wide they defy comprehension. You see them in the collective fatigue. We all feel the kind of weariness that no vacation can cure because the soul knows when it's not aligned with truth. And yet, amid this decay, sprouts something astonishing. People are waking up, not en masse, not dramatically, quietly, incrementally, like stars flickering into view, one by one in the night sky. Some wake up because their old life collapsed, some because they read something they couldn't unsee, some because they felt a resonancy, a strange sense that they are meant for more than this treadmill of survival. And if you're still watching, still listening, chances are you felt it too. So now we return to the storm. What do? First, we stop pretending we are powerless. The most dangerous myth of all is that one person can't make a difference. But the laws of physics disagree. In chaos theory, the butterfly effect tells us that the smallest actions can ripple across systems. A flap of wings in one part of the world can shift weather patterns across continents. In human terms, a kind word can prevent a suicide. A single book can change the course of a life. A video, this very message, can awaken someone you'll never meet. That's not mysticism. That's mechanics. Energy travels, influence spreads, and you, yes, you are a transmitter. You don't have to become a guru, a hero, or a savior. You just have to become aware. Aware that you are not a bystander in this universe, but a participant in its unfolding. So participate. Speak truth when it's inconvenient. Ask questions when others stay silent. Choose love in a culture that monetizes division. Because while the storm cannot be stopped, it can be navigated. The storm exists not to destroy you, but to reveal what in you is indestructible. We live in the only known corner of the universe where stardust arranged itself to contemplate itself. Think about that. The atoms in your body were forged in stars that lived, died, and exploded long before Earth existed, And yet here you are capable of empathy, curiosity, and love. That is not trivial. That is rare. That is sacred. And it is exactly what the storm requires. This is not just a planetary moment, it is a cosmic one. A test not just of our technology, but of our maturity as a species. Will we graduate from adolescence marked by competition, consumption, and fear into a collective adulthood defined by collaboration, compassion, and vision? That choice is not made by governments or corporations. It is made by individuals, by light workers, by those who dare to stay awake while others sleep. When the telescope was invented in the early 1600s, it changed more than astronomy, it changed our position in the cosmos. For the first time, humans saw moons orbiting Jupiter. This shattered the comforting belief that everything revolved around us. And in that moment, we had a choice: deny the evidence or expand our understanding. Today, we face a similar choice, not from a telescope, but from an inner lensa widening of perception that forces us to confront a new, inconvenient truth. The center is shifting again. This time, not from Earth to Sun, but from ego to ecosystem, from me to we, from isolated individual to interconnected whole. And again, we are tempted to resist, but you didn't come here to resist truth, you came here to evolve with it. The storm on the horizon isn't a celestial body. It's a human reckoning, a reckoning with how we treat one another, how we treat the earth, and how we treated meaning itself as something optional. Replaceable, ignorable. We built towers of glass and steel, but many can't find a window into their own soul. We've charted the behavior of quarks and galaxies, but fumble to articulate why we feel so empty in the glow of blue light. We talk about artificial intelligence with reverence, yet have not finished exploring natural intelligence, the intelligence of compassion, intuition, and collective purpose. And that brings us to the heart of this storm. It is not about what's coming from outside, it's about what's been ignored inside. We have mastered the art of distraction, but forgotten the discipline of reflection. We chase success, but rarely define what a meaningful life looks like. We know how to broadcast ourselves, but not how to listen to the planet, to each other, to the small, still voice within. And that's why so many are asleep, because it's easier to dream of success than to wake up to responsibility. But again, and I cannot stress this enough, the storm is not your punishment. It is your teacher. It is nature's way of recalibrating, not with vengeance, but with intelligence. You see, in physics, every system seeks equilibrium. A spinning planet balances its momentum with gravity. A cell balances energy production with repair. And human societies, too, must balance their values with their actions. When we exploit, pollute, divide, and consume, beyond reason, there is a correction. And that correction feels like collapse. But collapse is not the end. It is a return to truth. So the question isn't, how do we avoid the storm? The real question is, what will we bring into it? Will we bring more fear, more blame, more disconnection? Or will we bring curiosity? Will we bring empathy? Will we bring the courage to change no just technologies but minds? Because if there's one truth that science and philosophy agree on, it's this: change is constant. Nothing in this universe is fixed, not even the stars. So why should a society built on outdated models of scarcity and separation remain unchanged while the universe evolves? There is a quiet revolution happening now, not in boardrooms, not in laboratories, but in living rooms, in classrooms, in the silent space between breath and awareness. People are beginning to ask better questions. What if success isn't accumulation, but alignment? What if progress isn't linear, but spiral returning to old truths with new understanding? What if the future isn't something we wait for, but something we create every time we choose integrity over expedience, courage over comfort, and wisdom over noise? These are not abstract questions. They are survival questions, civilizational questions, cosmic questions. And the answers won't come from algorithms. They'll come from awakened minds, from you, because the greatest untapped energy source on Earth is not nuclear, not solar, it's human awareness. When a critical mass of people begins to see through illusion, change becomes inevitable, not optional, inevitable. That's not mysticism, that's momentum. So now ask yourself, are you contributing to that momentum or resisting it? Are you a spectator or a participant? Are you asleep or are you awake? And if you're awake, are you willing to stay awake? Because here's the paradox. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's a practice, a discipline. Like astronomy, it requires constant observation, not just of the heavens, but of the inner sky. Your beliefs, your choices, your impact. To awaken is not to have all the answers, but to live in the light of better questions. To awaken is not to escape suffering, but to see suffering and refuse to look away. To awaken is not to judge those who are still asleep, but to stand ready like a lighthouse in the storm when they begin to stir. And they will, because the storm that is coming isn't just breaking things down, it's breaking things open, hearts, minds, conversations, possibilities. So here you are, this particular arrangement of atoms and awareness born, not in the wrong time, but in the exact right time. Because the universe, for all its mystery, does not make mistakes. It births worlds, stars, and civilizations with a logic deeper than we yet comprehend. And you are one of its expressions, one of its emissaries, not separate from the cosmos, but a continuation of it. You don't need permission to rise. The moment has already arrived. The storm has already begun. The question is not whether you will survive it. The question is whether you will use it. Use the storm. Let it strip away the illusions, the ones you inherited, the ones you constructed, the ones you wore like armor because vulnerability felt too dangerous. Let the wind howl and expose what's hollow. Let the lightning illuminate what's true. Because clarity often arrives with chaos. And from the earliest moments of the universe, when all matter and energy exploded outward in the Big Bang chaos, has always been the birthplace of new order. The storm is your crucible. And the beauty of a crucible is that it transforms without apology. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't wait for your schedule to open. It simply arrives and asks, will you burn away the false or cling to it? This isn't about being heroic in the Hollywood sense. It's about being honest in the human sense, about admitting that our species, for all its brilliance, has made some grave miscalculations. We believe that convenience was more important than consequence, that economic growth could happen without ecological cost, that happiness was something you bought, not something you cultivated. We built faster networks but slower minds, globalized trade but not empathy. And now the pressure is mounting. Climate change is no longer a forecast, it's a lived experience. Inequality isn't a statistic, it's a fracture. Technology grows more intelligent by the hour, yet we fail to ask whether it makes us wiser. But in every collapsing system, there is an opportunity for emergence. This is the great paradox of entropy. Even as disorder increases, new structures can evolve if we're willing to redesign the equation. And that begins not with governments or corporations, but with individuals, with consciousness. You, for example, are a neural network, 6 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections, all capable of thinking beyond survival, beyond fear, capable of imagination, of compassion, of choosing to respond instead of react, to build instead of break. You are a galaxy's worth of potential, compressed into the frame of a human life. And what will you do with that? Because the storm will not ask who you voted for, what title you held, or how many followers you had. It will ask, did you evolve? Did you awaken? Did you make your life a signal of hope in a world drowning in noise? And that's where we pivot from awakening to action. You see, in astrophysics, the most powerful phenomena occur not in isolation, but in collision. Galaxies merge, stars devour each other. And from those encounters, new forms are born. The same is true of us. We are not meant to evolve alone. You're part of a broader emergence, a collective mind rising like steam from a boiling planet. Scientists, artists, healers, skeptics, visionaries, light workers, many names, one current, And when currents align, they become rivers. When rivers converge, they reshape landscapes. That is your power not as a lone voice, but as a harmony within a chorus, a resonance within a field. Because what we face is not just a crisis of climate or economy, it's a crisis of meaning. And meaning is not manufactured, it's co-created. So find your collaborators. They may not look like you, think like you, or speak your language, but if their hearts beat for truth, if their vision is toward healing, if their courage matches yours, then you are kin, co-authors of a new chapter for Earth. And when you unite, not in uniformity, but in unity, you'll generate a field of consciousness so powerful, even chaos must pause. And so we reach the end of this chapter, yet it's not really an end, it's a beginning. What we face now is not merely a cosmic storm, it is a reckoning with ourselves, with our systems, and with the very nature of existence. The storm, as it rages, is not here to punish us. It is here to remind us that we are not just passive passengers in the universe. We are active participants in the story of life. And every choice, every action, every thought we emit contributes to the larger cosmic fabric. As we stand at the crossroads, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to be a part of? What future are we building with our choices, both big and small? The storm is coming. It is not a matter of if, but when. The question is not whether we can avoid it, but how we will face it. Will we face it with fear and retreat, or will we stand tall in the eye of it, embracing the clarity it brings? We have the power to choose. We have the power to awaken. We have the power to rewrite the narrative of our species, not just as consumers or survivors, but as stewards of the earth, as beings who understand that true strength comes from unity, from cooperation, from compassion. This is the challenge of our time. And here's the truth. The storm is not out there, it is within us. It is the storm of consciousness, the storm of awakening, the storm of possibility. It is the storm that we have the privilege of navigating, not with fear, but with courage. So as the winds howl and the thunder roars, stand firm, stand awake, stand aware. Because the storm is not here to destroy you, it is here to transform us. And when the storm passes, when the clouds part, and the sun shines once more, we will look back and realize that we did not just survive, we evolved. We became who we were always meant to be. Fully awake, fully aligned, and ready to step into a future where we remember that we are not separate from the earth, but an integral part of it. That we are not separate from the cosmos, but a reflection of it. That we are not just individuals, but a collective force of transformation. This is the moment. This is our time. And you are not just here to witness it. You are here to shape it. So stand up, rise, wake up, because the storm is coming, but so are you. And together we will meet it not as victims, but as visionaries. The future is ours to create,